Kuba is a business game that is designed to simulate a retail business. So during the game, players are going to want to buy and resell inventory with the purpose of making as much profit as possible, but the key is we need to maintain a set of financial statements that remain in balance as we play and operate through the game. So right at the beginning of the game, each player is going to receive a statement of comprehensive income and a statement of financial position. Every single transaction that happens during the playing of the game gets recorded in these financial statements. At the beginning of the game, we are going to invest 6,000 Rand into each one of the teams, each one of the players' businesses. So they'll take 6,000 Rand out of the market, and that'll be their opening share capital. That first transaction will need to be recorded in our statement of financial position. What we would do there, we would record under row F, under our cash, we would add 6,000 Rand. So we would put plus 6,000 Rand under cash. And under row G, our share capital, we would add 6,000 Rand, showing that we have now received 6,000 Rand share capital for our business. That is the opening cash that we've got to start operating and running our business. Now, right at the beginning of the game, we get an opportunity to buy inventory for cash. This is going to be the inventory that we'll place in our stores to start operating, to start trading with. So we need inventory in order to sell it. So you get an opportunity up front to decide how much inventory you would like. If you need more inventory at a later stage, you'll have to come to the inside circle on the game board, which I'll explain now, and purchase more inventory there. So once I've decided how much inventory I'd like to purchase, I'll pay the cash into the market, take the corresponding amount of inventory, and I would, again, record the transaction in my statement of financial position. If I decide I want 3,000 Rands worth of inventory, for example, under row F cash, I would put minus 3,000 Rand as I need to pay 3,000 Rand to the market. And under row D inventory, I would put plus 3,000 Rand because I would take 3,000 Rand worth of inventory from the market. So I now have a business where I've got some cash and I have got some inventory. Bear in mind at all times, if you run out of cash during the playing of the game, you're going to get declared bankrupt and you're going to leave the game. So make sure that you don't use all your cash and spend it all on inventory too early. Now the way that we play the game is we throw a dice and we move around this game board that we have here. There are two different circles that we have on the game board. The outside circle is where we're going to make sales and generate income, and the inside circle is where we're going to come if we need to buy more inventory for our stores, for our businesses. So we would throw the dice and we would move around. If we land on any one of these blue blocks on the outside circle, we would pick up the top blue card, which has got the letter I for income, and we would complete the transaction that is described on that blue card. So for example, this one says I sell 3 units at 200 Rand each to a customer who pays cash. I would then know that I'm going to receive 600 Rand for 3 units of inventory. I would take the 600 Rand from the market. I would give the 3 units back into the market, and then I would need to record those transactions in the financial statements, which are described in detail on each one of these cards. So the blue ones are where we're going to generate incomes. The purple ones with the E on them are expenses. Now this is where we're going to pay some of the costs, the operating costs for running the business. If I land on one of those, again, pick up the top expense card, pay anything that needs to be paid. This one says I pay 300 Rand for advertising. I would pay 300 Rand to the market and then record the transaction as described on the card in my financial statements. To keep things exciting, we've also got these yellow cards, which are companies that I can buy the shares in. If I own the shares in one of those companies and one of the other players lands on my company, they would pay me royalties. Now those transactions again are described on the individual company cards. With the companies, I get a choice. I can either pay cash for those shares or I can take out a loan for the full purchase price. So it's all cash or all loan if I want to buy those shares in those companies. If I take any loans during the playing of the game, I'm going to pay interest on that loan at the end of the game at 10%. So any loans that I generate during the game, I'll pay interest of 10% right at the end of the game. So be warned, borrowed money costs money, but owning the shares in these companies is an additional source of income if you feel that it is worth it. Now to move to the inside circle, we've got these 3 orange blocks with an L on them. These are liabilities. If I land on one of those, I'm either going to borrow more money, generate more liabilities, or I might repay some of my liabilities. I might repay my accounts payable. This is when I bought inventory from my suppliers on account. On the inside circle, there are a whole lot more expenses. That's just a warning. And we also have these green A blocks, which stands for assets. Now, most of those, if I land on one of those, they are going to show me how much more additional inventory I can purchase. So if I land on one of those, I pick up the top inventory card. This one says I purchased 8 units of inventory for cash. I would take the 8 units from the market, pay the 800 Rand to the market, record the transactions in my financial statements as described on the cards. So players have a choice whether they want to stay on the outside circle to make sales and generate income, or whether they want to flow onto the inside circle to purchase more inventory if their inventory starts running low. We always go in a clockwise direction, and you cannot go in and out through the same access point. So if you come in this access point, for example, you have to keep flowing and either go out one of those or do a complete revolution, then you can go back out to the sales circle. If you land on one of the sales blocks, the blue income blocks, and you pick up a card and it says that you sell 7 units for 300 Rand each, and you've only got 5 units of inventory left in your store. You don't have enough inventory to complete that sale, in which case you will lose that whole sale, and that sale gets given to the player on your left. If they've got enough inventory, they will record the sale and take all the profits from that sale. If they don't have, then the next player would get that sale, and so on and so forth. They don't lose their turn. It's an additional source of income that comes into their business. So you don't want your inventory levels to run too low. If your inventory levels run too low, remember you need to come inside to try and find some additional income under those asset blocks. We recommend that you would play for 45 minutes, and at the end of that 45-minute cycle, we would call that the end of the game. The player with a card in his hand would complete those transactions, and we would then go and complete our financial statements. The first thing that we need to do after the 45-minute end has been called is any players that have got loan cards, they would need to repay interest at 10% on those loans. You only pay the interest, you don't repay the whole loan. So for example, if I've got 3,000 Rands worth of loan cards, I need to pay 300 Rand into the market as the interest on those loans. We do not pay interest on our accounts payable that is due to our suppliers. So once we've paid all of the interest, every player would then need to complete their financial statements. Now the first statement that we're going to complete is our statement of comprehensive income. And what we would do is you would add across every single row, being very careful to take into consideration the positive and negative numbers, and get a total for every single row. Once you've got the total for every row, we will go down the total column at the end there to calculate how much net profit we've generated. Now the format of the statement of comprehensive income would be sales minus cost of sales equals my gross profit, and then gross profit plus all my other income minus all my other expenses equals net profit at the end, or net loss if it's a negative at the end. That net profit or net loss is going to show which team is going to be the winner. The team with the highest net profit is the winner, provided that their statement of financial position balances. So the net profit or loss at the bottom of the statement of comprehensive income, this gets transferred to my equity in my statement of financial position, which I will describe now. These instructions are described on the bottom of these financial statements. Once I know what my net profit is, I would come to my statement of financial position, and again I would go across every single row to calculate the totals, so bearing in mind the positive and negative numbers, and I would get to my totals on the end column. The format for the statement of financial position, I would firstly add up all of my assets and get a total for all of my assets. I would then add up all my equity and liabilities and get a total for my total equity and liabilities. If my total assets and total equity and liabilities are equal, then I know my financial statements balance and everything is in order. Please remember to bring your net profit or loss across onto your statement of financial position. Finally, right at the bottom of our statement of financial position, there's a grid. And every single one of these market cards has got a unique number on the top left-hand corner. Every time you pick up a card, the first thing you need to record is that unique card number in this bottom grid on my statement of financial position. This gives me a record of every card I've picked up for my business. And if I come into any problems, for example, if my financial statements don't balance, I can go back and find all of those cards and tick off and make sure that I've recorded everything correctly.